Let's talk about the way the Weinsteinification has destroyed storytelling in Hollywood. Let's talk about that a little bit. Now, I am a movie business nerd. I have been since I was like 9 years old. One of the things that I've learned in tracking people's careers is what to expect next. For instance, I was 10 years old when I saw Brad Pitt on an episode of, what was that show? Growing Pains. And I thought, oh my God, no, no, hold on. I'm going to be honestly uncool and talk about my 10-year-old self running around the living room or the family room yelling, he's going to be a star, he's going to be a star, he's going to be a star. And you could tell there's a certain quality that actors who are also meant to be big bring to the role. Not just the good performances, but the X factor that people talk about. I noticed early on it was much easier to predict the course of male actors' careers, especially white male actors' careers, than it was anybody else's, because the same feeling that I would get from a black woman or sometimes a black man, but not quite to the same degree. It's a different thing that would happen with black male actors' careers and black women actors' careers. Um, I would know I would recognize that mm, something's off here. And it when it comes to YT women and actors, very often their careers are predictable as well. They just didn't run the same track as white men did. Now, here's where we start to get into something interesting. I remember Rosanna Arquette. I remember thinking that she was special. And I remember there was her sister, Melissa. I can't remember her relative. I can never see the Dabo girls and the Arquette girls. I keep getting mixed up. I can never remember if they're cousins or sisters, if if there's one of them that's sisters and one of them that's cousins, which is which. Pretty sure the Dabos are cousins. Now, the Dabo that we kind of probably are most familiar with is one I can't remember her first name right now, which is fine. And you kind of predict. I felt like her career took the track that I kind of expected. But the other one, the other Dabo, did not. She disappeared. And I was surprised by that. Now, the Arquette that I expected to be really successful was not Melissa, even though that's what happened. I felt like Rosanna had this specialness to her, but then she just fell off. She did a couple of things, was amazing in them, was interesting in them, and then she was gone. And all these years later, as I'm watching different things and different actors, women actors, kind of pop up on the shows, I realize that why do I not still know her name the way I did? Like Rosanna Arquette. I'm rewatching Grey's Anatomy. It's the episode she's guest starring on. And she's amazing. She is on fire. And I thought there is no way that that her career was not artificially destroyed. Like there's no career track that makes sense for her to still be doing guest roles on television series 20, 30 years on. So what did I do? I Googled her name and the name Harvey Weinstein. Hello. He was one of hers. She was one of his. She was one of the women whose career that he held in his hands, and when she rejected him, he destroyed it. There are a number of actors. Annabella Sciorra, brilliant. The problem with what people call the benign phrase for sexual harassment was the casting couch. Very benign, right? But what we learn is that it kind of destroys artistry. It corrupts artistry. It corrupts artistry because what you've decided is that women don't matter in this business, and the people who matter are the men. So male actors, rather than directors or casting directors or writers deciding who's going to be their co-star, their female co-star, he gets to decide because women don't matter. When it's when women get roles, they have to be good. They don't get the same opportunity that men have to be really bad at their roles and then grow into their craft. Because if they do not knock it out of the park the first time, then they don't get another shot for a long time, if at all, if they're able to hang in with the business long enough. And here's what we know. We know that 60% of actors in Hollywood are women. We also know that for a long time, the movie business made a lot of money on women because women were the ones going to movies. And for whatever reason, they decided to make a shift and target 14-year-old boys instead of women who, you know, are the deciders of the dollar when it comes to their households. Now, we can blame the corporatization of Hollywood, we can blame a lot of things, but the reason why things continued along this track that allows um, predatory men, to have fully in their hands the careers and the reputations of women that they like and don't like is very much a function of Hollywood as it's existed for the past, I want to say, 70 years. And what the corporatization of it did was simply speed up a process that had been taking place for a long time. So, as a woman, you know, in the old days, a lot of women wrote a lot of movies. They wrote a lot of plays. They wrote a lot of books that were turned into movies. And that at some point in the 60s and 70s, when the auteur movement really took off, um, it became this idea that women can't write again. And women directed movies in the ye olde days. And then at some point during that time period, it was just decided that women couldn't be directors either, even though the men who are most touted for being the most brilliant directors cheated. Bernardo Bertolucci, for one. Here's what I'm looking at. First, let me just mention, when you talk about Black women's careers, you can be brilliant, you can be perfect, you can be epic. It just doesn't matter. Your career is never going to follow a recognizable track. It Black women's careers never make sense. There's no internal logic, there's no external logic. With Black men, yes, there is. Like, you can tell who's going to hit big and what kind of roles that they're likely to get, especially since Will Smith came on the scene. Denzel Washington, you knew he was always going to be working, but you also understood that he was never going to be a romantic lead. Um, but then Will Smith changed that dynamic so that now there are Black men who are also romantic leads. We get to, there is a certain logic to their careers when they're not interfered with. But it still happens way more to Black women. I mean, like, forget it. We're just pretty much fundamentally screwed in Hollywood. But YT women, when someone who's a predator takes an interest in them, you can tell by the shape that their career takes, or rather just doesn't take. Hence, you have Rosanna Arquette being brilliant on a gurney on on a couple of episodes of Grey's Anatomy instead of having the big career she should have had.